It was supposed to be the best day of my life, and for a while I truly believed it would be. Anxiety consumed me for weeks. The simple thought of seeing her there, so close, breathing the same air, it was almost surreal. She was my muse, my musical obsession, my inspiration. I still like her, but after that night, everything changed. And it changed in a way I can't explain without feeling a chill run through my stomach. Her show, right here, in my city. Something that seemed like a gift from destiny. I dreamt of feeling all that energy up close, singing every chorus like it was a prayer, losing myself in that sea of lights and beats. I imagined the ecstasy of being right there at the edge of the stage, with my heart beating faster than the music. In the days leading up to the show, I could barely sleep. I was living in a sick countdown. And then, finally, the day came. Or rather, that fateful night came. It was a typical summer evening, mild temperature, a light breeze. It seemed too perfect. Perfect until I came face to face with that door. If I had never walked through it, maybe my life would still make some sense. But since that moment, nothing is the same anymore. The days seem like blur, the nights too long. The people, they don't seem the same. Not even me. But back to the beginning. The performance was incredible. The crowd was ecstatic. And then, amidst all that excitement, I saw someone who paralyzed me. Anthony. He was my childhood friend, my confidant. We had lost touch when his family moved away, and I never saw him again. But there he was, on the other side of the fence near the stage with a badge hanging from his neck. Technical production. I shouted his name and he looked at me like he was seeing a ghost, in a good way. We hugged like old survivors of a silent war. He told me he was working on the show's production and, excited, said he could get me VIP access. I couldn't believe it. I was already living the peak. And now this? Anthony was clear. Maybe, if I was lucky, I could even see the backstage. But he didn't promise anything. And I accepted. Just being there already seemed too surreal. As he disappeared into the chaos of the production, I took the opportunity. I met people, took photos, danced like there was no tomorrow. After a while, Anthony returned, out of breath, with a sparkle in his eyes. I got it. You're going to see the backstage. Come on, it's the only chance. It felt like a dream being written in real time. The show had started. The beat, the lights, the delirious crowd. And there I was, with the chance to live the impossible. I followed Anthony through makeshift corridors, crossing people running this way and that. It was all noise, rush, mixed voices. But then we entered a quieter area, almost sterile like a hidden space. There, time began to slow down. Anthony received a sharp call. It seemed like someone important. He looked at me, told me to wait, and disappeared. And I was left alone, standing in front of a single door, painted in matte black. The sound of the show seemed to have vanished. Everything around me seemed wrapped in a strange bubble of silence. My heart was beating too fast, but my curiosity was beating even stronger. Could it be Kesha Aveline's dressing room? Was this it, behind this door, the highest point of my life? I approached, as if something was pulling me, as if the very air was guiding me. I felt a chill down my spine, a sudden coldness in my bones. But I didn't hesitate. I turned the doorknob. When I opened the door, nothing. Nothing but an absurd silence, as if I had left the world behind. I thought it was acoustic isolation, something to guarantee the artist's peace. But as soon as I entered, I realized the air was different, thicker, colder, more wrong. The darkness was almost palpable. and the silence didn't feel like peace, it felt like death. In that moment, time didn't exist. And I felt, deep down, that I had crossed a line that should never have been touched. I don't know how long I walked through that nameless labyrinth. Every corridor seemed to stretch out by its own will. The architecture didn't obey any logic. Sometimes the walls curved inward. Other times the ceilings seemed to descend slowly, as if they were trying to crush me without haste. And there was no sound of the show. No echoes, no shouts, no signs of life. Only my own thoughts. And they were beginning to change too. I remember trying to unlock my phone. The screen lit up, but the time was wrong. It read 3:03 a.m., but there was still light coming through some invisible crack in the ceiling. A grey, sickly light, as if the day there never truly knew how to dawn. The photos in my gallery had vanished. All of them. Only one remained, which I swear I never took. It was a picture of me, standing, staring directly at the camera, but my eyes were closed, and I had a serene expression. It would have been reassuring if it weren't for the fact that I didn't remember anything about that moment. I blinked. The image disappeared. My phone froze. The battery dropped from 78% to 3% in 2 seconds. It died. I was left in the dark. And it was right then, in that moment, that I started hearing voices. They weren't speaking directly to me. They seemed like fragments, echoes of conversations, distant screams, crying, nervous laughter, fragments of sentences whispered over and over. You shouldn't have come. She only sings for those who don't want to hear. This is where the reflections rest. The music is the key. Going back is not the same as leaving. I hid behind a pillar. I closed my eyes tightly, tried to breathe deeply, to regain control, to remember where I had come from. But there was no door behind me anymore. Everything had changed again. I started running. My legs felt heavy, like the air itself was thicker. I passed through loose cables, empty speaker boxes, dirty mirrors propped up in strange places, all with reflections that didn't match my movements. They repeated, but with delay, as if they were deciding whether they even wanted to imitate me. In one of the mirrors, I saw Anthony, but he was different. He wore the same production t-shirt, but his face seemed thinner, his eyes cloudy. He smiled, but the smile was frozen. The mirror vibrated slightly as if it were breathing. I called out to him. Nothing. I touched the glass. The reflection flickered, but I didn't blink. I took a step back. The walls seemed to contract. The corridor became even narrower, and for the first time I realized that place wasn't just physical. It was like thoughts themselves were shaping the environment. If I felt fear, the space became more oppressive. If I tried to remember a song by Kesha Aveline, I only heard a distorted version with the notes slipping like a scratched record. I started feeling nauseous. The light, it was almost unbearable now. Not bright but invasive, like it was penetrating my eyes and messing directly with my head. That's when I entered a dark room. Completely black, silent. There was only a single point of light in the ceiling, right in the center, illuminating a dressing room chair, the kind with a mirror and light bulbs around it. It was turned backward. I approached slowly, all the hairs on my body standing on end. I touched the back of the chair. It slowly turned. There was someone sitting in it. It was a woman, with her face covered by a black veil. Her outfit resembled Kesha Aveline's stage costume, but her body was too pale, too rigid. Her hands, thin, dry, still. She was staring at me, without visible eyes. And even without a voice, I understood what she was trying to say. I was intruding on a place that didn't belong to me, a place where no one enters, only where you're taken. The mouth beneath the veil started to move. A melody came from her, the same one I had heard earlier, but now it was louder, clearer, more alive. The lyrics seemed to be made of sounds that didn't belong to our language, but somehow I understood. Your version is already here, the other one you won't return to, and even if you do, you will never be heard the same way again. The lights turned off at once. I felt hands on my shoulder. I screamed. When I opened my eyes, I was in a different place. The crowd. But it wasn't the same. The people were all standing still, motionless, like puppets that had forgotten how to move. Kesha Aveline was on stage, but the structure around her was completely dark, like an empty version of the real show. The colours had faded. Only grey and black remained. And there, in that moment, I realised I was in the same place. And at the same time, in a completely different one. A place without a name. Whatever was happening there, it was no longer about music. That version of the show was a dead theatre, a soulless reflection. The people were motionless, with grey skin, their eyes fixed on the stage like forgotten dolls. And still. I heard applause, but no one was clapping. Kesha Aveline on stage, or the thing wearing her image, no longer danced. She floated. Her feet didn't touch the ground. Her mouth moved in a silent manner, but even then, it entered my mind, infiltrating my thoughts like a melody-spawned parasite. I wanted to scream, I wanted to run, but my body no longer responded as it once did. That's when I saw it. In the middle of the crowd, me, the other me. She was standing in the midst of the still people, but she wasn't looking at the stage. She was looking at me. And she smiled. Not a cheerful smile, but a smile from someone who had already understood everything and no longer felt anything. She raised her hand and pointed, straight at me. I felt the air grow heavier, like the entire environment had noticed my presence. A buzzing began to grow, like a radio signal trying to tune into something beyond reality. Then the ground trembled. Everything around me twisted for a second, like a glitch in a video. The people blinked all at once, like someone had pressed a button. Kesha Aveline stopped singing, turned her face to the crowd, and her eyes were completely white now. She stared directly at me. The crowd turned with her, thousands of dead eyes staring at me. And in the absolute silence, they all opened their mouths at once, but no sound came out. I recoiled. I staggered, trying to escape, and tripped over a metal structure. I fell. The light flickered, and when I opened my eyes, I was in another place. A small room, raw concrete walls. The light came from a dim bulb, hanging from a crooked wire. In the corner, a woman sat on a wooden bench sewing something. She looked calm, almost out of place. I looked around. No visible exit. Where am I? I asked, with a weak voice, almost childlike. What is this place? She didn't look at me right away. She continued sewing for a few seconds, as if each stitch mattered more than my question. Then, without emotion in her voice, she murmured, Zarathiel. The name echoed in the space like an invisible crack. I repeated it, not understanding. What? She finally looked at me. You asked, but the name doesn't change anything. Not always should you name what consumes, she said with a light, almost ironic tone. What is Zarathiel? I insisted, feeling my skin crawl. She smiled with thin lips, no visible teeth. It depends on who you were and what you brought with you. I blinked. and she was no longer there. The room was empty now. The light flickered. On the floor, the stitching she was working on was still there, dark fabric with embroideries moving on their own. The designs seemed faces, distorted and agonized. I tried to run, but the door had disappeared. The room began to spin slowly, not like a carousel, but as if gravity were dissolving from within me. I began to feel that I, too, was being sewn into that fabric. The memory of my bedroom, my house, the day of the show, began to disappear, as if they were old dreams that someone had told me about. I looked at my hands, and they took longer to obey my commands. And it was right then, in that void between who I am and who I was, that I understood. I wasn't trying to leave anymore. I was trying to remember what it meant to leave. And the more I tried to remember, the more it pulled me. Zarathiel. I don't remember the exact moment I woke up. I just know that I was lying on the rough concrete floor, near a side gate of the stadium. The sun was already rising behind the bleachers, tinting the sky with a dirty orange. And I was shaking. My hands were scratched. My knees were dirty. My head was throbbing, and there was a metallic taste in my mouth, as if I had bitten a piece of the night itself. A security guard approached with a strange look on his face. "You okay? How did you get here?" I tried to answer, but my voice took a while to come out. He helped me up and led me to a concrete bench nearby. He spoke as if I were one of those people who took too much of something or got lost. But his look said something else. He saw me as something displaced, as if he felt something was wrong with me, but didn't know what. I looked around. The stadium seemed normal. The lights were already being turned off. Some people were still leaving through the sides. Others were chatting, laughing, taking photos, as if everything had been perfectly ordinary. But I knew it hadn't been. I searched for Anthony. I called his name a few times. Nothing. I asked a girl from the crew. She said no one by that name was on the team. I opened my phone, now working normally, and tried to find a photo. None. Not even selfies I had taken before the show. My face seemed absent from my own gallery. There were records of other people, places, but I wasn't anywhere, like something had erased me from the narrative. I went home in a state of shock. I spent days unable to sleep. I heard whispers inside my room. I heard footsteps behind the door. Every time I tried to explain what had happened, the words slipped away. They seemed too empty to contain what I was feeling. Over time, the people around me started to act differently. My friends kept their distance. My boyfriend said I was strange, that my eyes seemed different. He said, half joking, that I spoke in my sleep, in a language he didn't recognize. I broke up with him a few weeks later, and it was for the best. I wasn't the same anymore. I'd wake up sometimes with the sound of that distorted melody echoing inside my head. Sometimes my reflection in the mirror would take a second longer to catch up. And when I looked deeply into my own eyes, I felt as if another version of me was watching me. I tried to return to my routine, but the city seemed slightly different. The streets, the people, the sounds, as if everything had been hastily redone, but with small flaws. I started noticing certain patterns, sounds that only I heard, expressions repeated by strangers, too many stares in the street, sometimes a familiar figure standing across the sidewalk just watching me. And then I started dreaming of her, Kesha Aveline, but not the way a fan dreams. She visited me in impossible places, at the end of dark hallways, sitting at the edge of my bed, or appearing in reflections, standing with black eyes fixed on me, without moving her lips, but singing inside my head. It was always the same melody, always that song no one else had heard, the song of Zarathiel. I tried searching for the name online, nothing. But sometimes, if I typed the right letters, in the right order, in the wrong places, something would respond. And then, I stopped searching, because the answer scared me more than the doubt. Today, I live as best as I can. I work. I avoid mirrors. I take different paths whenever I hear footsteps that shouldn't exist. But I know that somewhere the other me is still there, standing in the middle of the crowd, motionless, smiling, and waiting. Sometimes when everything is quiet, when the house sleeps and even the clocks seem to stop, I close my eyes and feel it. I feel that I didn't return whole. I feel that something stayed there, or came with me. There are nights when I wake up to a faint song coming from inside my mind. Not from the room, not from the world. It's as if I'm trapped inside myself. The melody has no lyrics, but it has intent. It wants me back. Or maybe it wants something deeper than that. I've learned to live with the echoes, with the whispers, with the fact that sometimes my reflection smiles when I don't. I never went to another show. I never walked through unknown doors again. I never trusted long hallways. And the strangest thing? I still get emails, invitations for backstage access, exclusive events, access codes. But they're not linked to any production name, no phone number, no origin, just one line in the footer. You already belong. When you're ready, return through where you entered. Today, I wonder if it was all real, or if my mind created a delusion to hide something worse. But then I see the signs. People look at me like they've seen me somewhere else before. People say they recognize me, but they get my name wrong. Shadows that move strangely behind the glass of the subway. And of course, the music. Always the music. Faint, persistent, waiting. So if you're watching this, if you love an artist so much that you'd cross any door, if one day you get an invitation too good to be true, think carefully, because not every door leads to what you expect, and some lead to where you shouldn't be. And when you get there and ask the name of that place, someone will answer you with coldness, with disdain, with the certainty that you won't return the same. Zarathiel. Now tell me, are you sure you've returned? If you made it this far, comment below. I walked through the wrong door. And tell us what your biggest fear was in today's video. Like, share, and most importantly, never ignore that strange feeling behind the curtains.